So now it's time to do the next step of the checkout process, and that is actually implementing our billing profile for either a logged in user or a guest user. So the first thing that we're going to do is a logged in user. So let's go ahead and jump into our checkout home view here. And of course, I'm going to use user equals to the request.user. And then we'll say if if user.is authenticated, then we are going to go ahead and do the billing profile. Okay, so right now I'm going to say billing profile is equal to none. And then below here, I'm going to give some context or change where my context dictionary is and add in that billing profile here. And above this authenticated stuff, we'll also keep it in as none because we will change this in a moment. And then our context for the checkout will be right there. Okay, great. So with this context, now that I have a billing profile, I can change my template a little bit. So let's go into that checkout template. And I'll really just say if not billing profile. So if it doesn't exist, then we'll do something. Otherwise, we'll just show that sort of standard checkout stuff. Okay, so the things that we actually want to do are log in. So we want to have a login or continue as guest. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. I'm refreshing here. I've got an empty cart, so let's make sure we add a cart. Add products to that cart, go to checkout, and I've got order OB. Oops, I think I might have accidentally removed part of order OBJ. There we go. Okay, I'll refresh, and now I've got login continue as guest, right? So to complete checkout, this is what we have to do. Let's go ahead and go in that checkout and actually create a few things in here. First off, we'll do div class equals to column, and I'll do div column 6. Actually, we will leave it as column 12 and then column medium 6. So medium and larger, we'll do it in as 6. And then I'll do p class of lead being login. And then same sort of thing with our continue as guest. So 12 column md 6. Close that off and put this whole thing into a row. Okay, and finally, I will also add in text center here to just give it a little bit more of a center. This might not be exactly how I want the width and whatnot to be, but we'll leave it in as this for now. And then in here, I want to create a form that actually logs me in, right? So we're just doing the login portion at this time. And again, this user might be logged in. In this case, it's not, right? So we don't have that user logged in because of that. But we want to be able to log them in. And then we'll have that user profile being set up based off of this logged in user. Okay, so we will log in really quickly with creating an actual login form. Now, we actually already created a login form, or at least we rendered out a login form. And I'm just going to render out this same sort of form, but I'm going to do it from the accounts login form. So I'm still going to render that exact same form, but I'm going to just go ahead and copy this portion and do one thing with it. And I'll just bring it in here and say we want to put it into a snippet. So we're going to put snippets. And then in here, we will just say form.html. And we're going to paste this form in here. Okay. Then we are going to go back into our view for the cart, and we want to render out that login form. So I'm going to be doing it the long way first, and then we'll change it later. But I'll go login form is login form, and that's it. So I have to import that login form from accounts.forms, import login form, and then with this, I'm going to bring this into my context again. Okay, so we've got our login form here now. And then back in my checkout, I can actually do include. This is going to be accounts snippets. And we called it form.html. with form equaling to, I think we called it login form. Okay, we save that, refresh in here, and there we go. We've got our login form now. But one other thing is I'm going to have to say next equals to, and it's going to be equal to the request dot build absolute URL or URI, excuse me. And now our next call, so going back into that snippet, we'll just come in here and say if next, then we put input type equals to hidden, value, or sorry, not value, but name equals to next, value is equal to the variable of next, as in next URL. Let's actually just call this next URL so we can, it's a little bit more robust and easier to read. So then our checkout is next URL, just like that. Okay, we save it, refresh in here. I don't see any errors, but if I inspect the element here, I'll see that I've got my post method, and then I have a hidden value in here called next, and it's going to this checkout. Okay, so I already have my username and password in here because I, have logged in and saved it with my browser. So if I go ahead and hit submit, I actually ran that form, but it didn't seem like it went where I wanted it to. And that's because our form itself doesn't have the correct action. So we're going to give the action in this case to the login URL, but I'll have to, I'm going to have to play around with this a little bit. So I'll just by default go ahead and do that. And we'll just say URL and login. So that changes where this is actually going to log in. So let's go back in here, check out. I hit submit, and now I'm actually logged in. It did redirect me, and it does still show this login view, and it's showing everything still for a reason. But again, I wanted to show you that, hey, you can actually log in from this, and it'll redirect because of what we did with the authentication stuff and having this next. So in our authentication next view, this is where it's actually going through, right? So it's going to go for next in the request get or in the request post. And if it's in the post data, it will be in that path. And then we're going to check to make sure it's safe, and then so on and so forth. Cool. And of course, I can still log in as usual. If I log in there, still logs in as usual. Of course, it's killing the session, so it's actually getting rid of that stuff. So we go to checkout, log in, and I'm still in that same thing, right? It's that cart is still there. It's still valid. Really cool. So now back into my cart view, since I have this login form, I can actually bring the billing profile to come in, right? So the billing profile is from this login form. I can actually bring it because now this user is authenticated, so it's no longer going to be none, which means it's going to get rid of these things. So the now billing profile, we go back into our models. That's this right here, of course. Let's go ahead and bring it in, and we'll do from billing.models, import billing profile. And then the user is billing profile, and then billing profile created equals to billing profile.objects.get or create user equals to user, as in the request user, right? And then I think we probably need to include the email as well. So we'll say user equals to user.email because of how we have it set up. So if we look back in our model, yeah, the email field is required. But since we have one-to-one field with our user, we might have to actually change that email field to be a little bit more robust for this particular user. But I also want to make sure, yeah, of course, if user.email, then I'll go ahead and do it. That's probably something that I might have to do in the future, but for now I'm going to leave it as this. And this get or create call is exactly what it sounds like. So it's going to get or create this billing profile based off of the user and the email, or the things that we're passing through it. And since we have a one-to-one relationship with our user, this will actually come through. So that's nice. So that means that it's unique. So it's either going to make a new one or it's not. And that's not really that important, other than the fact that now we have our billing profile object. So if I refresh in here, it brings me back into checkout. I log out again. Let's just do the whole process again. I'll add to cart, checkout. It's saying log in, continue as guest. I hit submit, and it brings me to that next level of the checkout. Of course, that next level is going to be something a little bit further than just this. Okay, so that's doing it with the authenticated user. So what I want to do is do it with the guest user. So I still want to create a billing profile with a guest user, even if it is just that guest user. And I'm actually going to associate that to our session. So that's something we'll do in the next one. Stay with us.